Understanding the connections, geography and indigenous cultures. Understanding the connections, geography and indigenous cultures. Introduction. Geography and indigenous cultures are interconnected in profound ways. Indigenous cultures have deep-rooted connections with the land they inhabit, relying on their understanding of the geography to shape their way of life and sustain their communities. In this article, we will explore the intricate relationship between geography and indigenous cultures, highlighting the significance and implications of this dynamic connection. 1. The bond with the land. Indigenous cultures have an intimate bond with the land in which they reside. They recognize that the geography not only provides them with a physical space to live but also encompasses their history, traditions, and spirituality. For many indigenous communities, the land is considered sacred and is imbued with cultural significance. It serves as a source of identity and a reflection of their past, present, and future. 2. Traditional ecological knowledge. Indigenous cultures have developed a wealth of traditional ecological knowledge by intimately interacting with their geographical surroundings. This knowledge encompasses a deep understanding of local ecosystems, weather patterns, flora, fauna, and natural resources. 3. Sustainable resource management. Indigenous cultures have traditionally practiced sustainable resource management, influenced by their understanding of the geography and ecosystems they inhabit. These communities have developed sophisticated systems to ensure the preservation and sustainable use of natural resources. By carefully managing hunting, fishing, agriculture, and forestry practices, they have been able to maintain the delicate balance of their environments for centuries. 4. Cultural landscapes. The geography of indigenous lands often manifests itself in the form of cultural landscapes. These landscapes are characterized by unique features, such as sacred sites, ceremonial spaces, and landmarks with deep cultural significance. Indigenous communities have shaped the physical environment to retain and celebrate their cultural heritage. Examples of cultural landscapes include rock art, earthworks, and ancient settlements, which serve as reminders of the historical and cultural connection between indigenous cultures and the land. 5. Climate change impact. The interconnectedness of geography and indigenous cultures becomes even more evident when considering the impact of climate change. Many indigenous communities are disproportionately affected by the adverse effects of climate change due to their reliance on the land and its resources. Rising sea levels, changing weather patterns, and the extinction of certain plant and animal species directly threaten the livelihoods and cultural survival of indigenous peoples around the world. 6. Indigenous land rights and stewardship. The understanding of the geography plays a pivotal role in indigenous land rights and stewardship. Historically, indigenous communities have faced challenges to their land rights due to colonialism, land grabs, and resource extraction. However, there is a growing recognition of the importance of indigenous knowledge and stewardship in preserving our planet. 7. The importance of indigenous education. In order to further strengthen the connection between geography and Indigenous cultures, it is crucial to prioritize Indigenous education. Indigenous education can empower individuals to become advocates for Indigenous rights and environmental stewardship, creating a more harmonious and inclusive society. 8. Indigenous-led conservation efforts. Indigenous communities are at the forefront of conservation efforts around the world. Their deep understanding of the land and ecosystems allows them to implement effective conservation strategies tailored to their specific geographical contexts. Indigenous-led conservation initiatives prioritize sustainable practices, biodiversity protection, and the preservation of cultural landscapes. These efforts not only benefit the Indigenous communities themselves but also contribute to global conservation goals and the overall health of our planet. 9. Sacred sites and traditional practices. Sacred sites hold immense cultural and spiritual significance for Indigenous communities. These sites often embody the connection between geography and Indigenous cultures, acting as focal points for traditional practices, ceremonies, and gatherings. Recognizing and respecting the importance of these sacred sites is paramount to the preservation of Indigenous cultures and their relationship with the land. Collaborative efforts between governments, conservation organizations, and Indigenous communities can ensure the protection and continued use of these sacred sites for generations to come. 10. Indigenous perspectives on land ownership. Indigenous cultures have unique perspectives on land ownership that differ from Western concepts. Land, for many Indigenous communities, is not seen as something to be owned but rather as a sacred responsibility to be cared for and respected. This holistic approach to land management recognizes the interdependence between human beings and the natural world. Incorporating Indigenous perspectives on land ownership into global discussions and policies can contribute to a more sustainable and equitable approach to environmental stewardship. 11. The role of Indigenous languages. Indigenous languages are intimately connected to the land and geography. Language often contains specific terms and concepts that reflect the relationship between Indigenous cultures and their natural surroundings. Preserving and revitalizing Indigenous languages is essential in maintaining the intricate knowledge and wisdom embedded within them. 12. Building collaborative relationships. 13. Empowering Indigenous youth. Empowering Indigenous youth is essential for the continued preservation and promotion of the connection between geography and Indigenous cultures. Indigenous youth play a vital role in advocating for their communities, protecting the environment, and shaping the future of Indigenous cultures. Investing in their education and supporting their active participation in decision-making processes is key to building a sustainable and resilient future. 14. Indigenous knowledge and climate resilience. Indigenous knowledge can offer valuable insights and solutions when it comes to building climate resilience.